Boop. Let me try this one. Let me try this one. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'm gonna invite everybody to the stream. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you swing with me? Sing with me, not swing. Sing. Sing, sing, sing. Sing like an Indian. Hello, Mr. Sing. Hello, how are you going to the cup? Okay. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T. Maybe it would be easier if I did like an Asian. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. That's hard. That is really hard. How you guys doing today? Welcome to the Current Cafe. My name is Jacob. I'll be your host today. Maybe this will help me articulate things. As we say, skip ahead to the third minute, and then maybe I'll have a better show for you. Damn, I hate Instagram. We're gonna send an invite. Brian. Hey, Brian. Doop-a-doop. We live. We live. R is really hard. We live. Diggity dog. Man, I sure. Oh, I did bring my books. Maybe I'm gonna write some notes. Armbar is. Oh, lovely. Lovely. There we go. We're live, everyone. Hello, welcome to the broadcast. Nobody's here, shit. Well, what am I gonna do? Looks like I'm gonna work on some notes, everybody. Let me see. New Mexico trip. Let's do Brian Clark. Jeremy. It was good to see friends. Although, Amy, I love you. That was not quite as... it was just good to hang out with you more than... I got to get a feeling of, oh, wow, this is what's happening in the world. But I'm going to chill for a minute, wait for you guys to come in, pile in. I might talk habits. We talk habit corner. An identity. There's an identity. And then the identity is what has us do the things that we do. And our habits become part of that. And it's sort of like, I don't know, it's like a feedback loop. Maybe that's it. And if you'll forgive me, I'm sitting back a little bit right now because yeah, we'll go to habits. All right, it's the 3-minute mark. So I'm working out. I got my goal. This is week 6 of Jacob's Getting Swole, which is going okay. If we take a look here real quick. Check out my traps. These guys. Boom, they're getting bigger. They're definitely getting bigger. But what I did was I started doing clean high pulls with 55 pounds right after waking up. So it's like, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to do a little bit of meditating. I'm going to do some Wim Hof breathing. Coffee. Still having coffee. And so I'm like, okay, cool. All right, cool. We're ready to go. Bam, bam, bam. And now my shoulders and my back and my freaking neck and my everything hurts. So, guys, I don't recommend doing that. Let's backtrack a little bit. Here, I'm going to get comfortable. If I sit cross-legged, I can sit up better without, wrecking my universe. Let's get centered. Why am I doing a show today? What is the purpose of today's show? It's really just kind of to check in after my trip to New Mexico, say what up, clear my head a little bit, and if I could riff with you guys, that would be great. But you're not here right now, so I might not. I made a realization that I could do a whole bunch of shows, or I could just do my
YouTube thing or work out or do whatever else I want to do. I don't plan on doing a bunch of shows. It's not like I'm back to streaming a whole bunch. But it helps me think things out, and I like to connect with you guys and be like, hey, what's going on? And I don't know, because I'm not sure how many people are going to watch the rebroadcast of this. Because, A, most people like to watch live things. 2, the shelf life of content like this is 30 seconds. And B, I don't know what else. Let's get centered. Oh, my neck. Oh, son of a bitch. Seriously, guys. You gotta warm up before you start working your back and your traps, apparently. Maybe everything. Thank God it wasn't like my calf day where I'm like, get the calves. And what else? I still have to do like lateral raises and dumbbell rows and front raises. Those aren't too bad. Neck work might suck today, though. Anywho, why am I doing a show? So I had a couple of discoveries on information, we'll put it that way, and things of life, and my perspective on life has changed dramatically. I had a transformational trip. To say that my trip was good would be inaccurate. To say that my trip was bad would be inaccurate. To say that my trip was great would be correct. It was fantastic. It was a wonderful trip. There were some fights that wound up happening. There was some realizations that wound up happening. And it's stuff that's pretty cold, pretty ugly. I'm not happy I realized things about the world and people in my life and friends. And I won't go into specifics because it's not healthy. One, actually, I will. So Brian Clark, if you watch this dog, my wife really liked you. She's like, man, I really like Brian. My wife's also pretty perceptive, especially with men. And she thinks she said, you need to get off the internet, dude. You need to get off social media. And how would I describe it? So, we connected, we saw each other. It was really good to see you, by the way. It was really good to see you, Brian. And so talking to you is great. And so then I check my feed, and then it's like, oh, Brian's reaching out. And here's a bunch of videos. And if you think about, your life, imagine every YouTube short or Instagram reel or whatever it is, or even full-length content, is a book. It's a book, okay? Maybe it's a book, maybe it's an article, but what happens if you read 10 articles of 10 completely different things that are schizo-posted or designed to, maximize your dopamine as much as possible, and it's all just crazy random shit from the internet? It's hard to keep track of all of that stuff. So I haven't watched any of them. No disrespect. It's that I can't have my brain that scrambled. I haven't had the space for it, given everything else. I hung out with my buddy Jeremy. Jeremy was the guy who I brought on our gun episode, and after talking to him, it was pretty blackpilling. I gotta be honest, being in Albuquerque was not an enjoyable experience as far as, looking at what's happened in my homeland. Born and raised, that's where I'm from, rep where you stay. My parents, my mom and stepdad, live a 5-minute walk from my childhood home. And there were drunk people in 2 houses down into the neighborhood, not even towards Comanche, just getting trashed in the rocks. Up in the Heights? Up in the Northeast Heights, a nice part of the Northeast Heights, and you just have people getting trashed on the curb. These guys weren't even curb. They were straight up in somebody's yard. And then I was talking to Jeremy, and he's like, yeah, dude, there was this guy getting drunk, and I want to beat his ass. Wow, that's crazy, dude. And then he told me about how he went to go beat his ass, and I was like, that's really crazy, dude. You need to chill. But it's gross. Albuquerque's become gross. It's a crime-ridden, gross, disgusting mess. And let's just see what happens in the election. But I suspect Mayor Keller is going to get reelected, and that's not going to fix anything. That's not going to help. Being soft on crime isn't good. And I guess that kind of segues into part of what I have discovered out of this trip. And part of what I've just discovered in the past, month, we could call it. Charlie Kirk got assassinated 33 days ago. And I am not... as upset as I was about it, but it's also I don't have the bandwidth to be upset about things. Like I can't dwell on stuff because I got little kids and I just traveled and I got a wife and oh crap, I got to go work out and then I got to go to like pick up my kid and then I got like PTA thing and then we got like kids race thing and to everybody who donated, thank you very much. To everybody who has not donated, you don't need to donate, but if you can donate, I would greatly appreciate to the kids PTA, Roosevelt Neighborhood PTA. Where are we, guys? What should we do? There's nobody here. I'm so sad without you. This is going to sound unconnected, but it's not. Okay? There is a guy, and I don't remember his name. And I'm not even sure I should remember his name. And he was in some band. And he was a chomo, and he went to jail for it. And to give you an idea, he was such a chomo, he got 20 years, which means he was really bad. That's really, really, really bad. And looks like he was murdered in prison. And I found that, well, first off, the person that I found it from, I'll even go and say it's Chris Riley. He was a friend of the show back in 2020. In fact, he hosted a few episodes, and he got stuff wrong, and that's fine. He's in that... I'll even say it, same political camp as Emily. And it helped me realize some things. Ugh. So he's just, super glib that... Chomo. You gotta be careful what we say on YouTube. I might actually start being careful on what I say on YouTube because, there's playing the game. And while I might think that the rules of the game are BS and that I should be honest and authentic, I might as well also play the game. And stack higher on the game. Speaking of games, Duolingo now has chess. Cool. Where was I going with any of this? I got to be honest, guys. It's a lot easier to do this when you're all here because then I can riff off of you and I get that extra energy. And it's fine that you're not here. It's not that I am upset or offended by any means. It's just that it keeps me on task. As opposed to you listening to my stream of consciousness when I'm still like sleep deprived, I hurt, and my brain's foggy. Maybe I should just take a nap. But I won't, because I'm going to start waking up at 5 so I can work out and get everything done and, get all swole. Well, I've got 10 months for Weight Watchers, and that'll get us pretty close to, being swole. Ripped for a big Mexico vacation, which my dad doesn't want me to go. And he's like, oh, did you go to Mexico? I'm like, fucking, we've done this for 15 years. Every time I talk about going to Mexico, Jesus. But whatever. Anyways, I digress. And Dad, if you watch this, you're not watching this. But if you watch this, I apologize. Where were we? Wait for it, and wait for it, and wait for it, and wait for it, and wait for it. Chris Riley. So this dude gets murdered in prison, and Chris is all super glib and happy about it. And yay, F that guy, and that guy sucks, and blah, 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 and he's cheering it on. Which reminds me of how many people were when Charlie Kirk got whacked. And people were cheering it on and celebrating it. And it helped me realize that... Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's parse that one. And then we got to explain this thing, which is slave morality. So I believe slave morality is a concept from Friedrich Nietzsche. And I'm going to, really, if I'm being honest, this is all about Friedrich Nietzsche. And Daddy's going down a Nietzsche hole. And I think it's good that I waited until I was 45 to really start digging into this stuff. I tried reading Thus Spoke Zarathustra when I think I was 22 or 23. And I'm like, man... I don't know if this is a good idea. I don't think this is a really good idea. And son of a bitch, it was not a good idea. I was not ready for that. So there's some books where it's like some authors that you shouldn't read until you're older. Like Machiavelli, I think is important to read. But to be honest, waiting until I was 40 to get into Machiavelli was a great idea. Waiting until I was in my 40s to get into Nietzsche was a great idea. I tried reading some Alexander Solzhenitsyn, which is like the Gulag Archipelago and A Day in the Life of Igor Karmenov or whatever it is. And that was a bit heavy, there's only so much suffering that we need to read before. I mean, how do I describe this? You know, if you read about World War II and the Nazis, and I understand that the Nazis are being revisited, and something that's happening is all of history is being revisited, for better or worse. And I think it's just that we have, you know, interpretations that people are using in order to drive their own specific narrative or to accomplish their goals. Like history has become a commodity. It's so good. It's so good. I'm gonna write that one down. History has become a commodity. His story has become a commodity. And man, there's so many like notices there. Become a commodity. Do you know the her story thing? You know, where people are like, oh, instead of his story, it's her story. And so they're trying to capture it, you know, but that's not the genesis of the word history. Like, there's some sort of Latin or Greek meaning that goes way, way, way back, and it's about, you know, telling tales or whatever it is and communicating the idea. You know, it doesn't have like the gendered language of English or using those genders. And so it's a function of people just being fucking idiots and like ignorant, which goes into a slave morality. And so what I'm arguing or postulating is that the slave morality of the left is wokeism. And what is a slave morality? Well, I'm going to butcher Nietzsche. So this is a chance for me to talk about this stuff without really getting in trouble because not very many people are watching this, so yay. And I'm going to look back on this in 2 years and be like, God, I was such a cretin. I can't believe how foolish I was. If I do go back. I don't actually go back and watch my stuff that much. Because I ain't got time for it. Nietzsche, slave morality. The Nietzschean slaving morality. If you think about who the slaves are, they have no power. Okay? You have the masters and you have the slaves. And back in the day, one of the ways that he describes the masters would be Athenian master. So ambitious, landowner, powerful, guilt-free, and unapologetic for using their power and having slaves, and just like a powerful person. And here's an interesting thing about Nietzsche. There's actually a lot of them, and I'm looking forward into digging into this guy. I think it's going to take a while for me to consume like a whole bunch of Nietzsche. I could spend a while on it, I'll put it that way. One of his ideas is negative ideas. And so Nietzsche was willing to build up frameworks in order to knock them down. So he can explain, in order for him to explain what something is, first he would explain what it is not. And so him talking about masters and slaves, he's not articulating it like it's a good thing or a bad thing. Skipping to the end, Nietzsche, I think, would like to see humans evolve a morality that is free of guilt and vengeance. And not in, some sort of animalistic sense, but not, being racked with guilt for just merely existing, for being human itself, and not having the willingness to go out and smash somebody because they did something mean. Let's go back to, the libs just being thrilled over Charlie Kirk getting whacked. The reason they're so happy about it is because they have no power. Okay? The reason Chris was so happy about this Chomo getting killed is because he has no power. People who sit there and they celebrate the death of somebody else, regardless if they deserve it or don't deserve it, even if it's their perception of them deserving it, it's because they're weak and powerless. The powerful aren't concerned about, the day-to-day actions of the goings-on in their world. I think, because I am not powerful, I think they're more concerned with the goings-on in their world. Like, what is their plan? What is their, what is their day that they're going to do? What is their week? What is their month? What is their quarter? What is their year? What are they doing with their families? What are they doing with their businesses, with their finances, and their lives? And what is the great goals that they're trying to achieve? And they're largely focused on that, rather than getting upset about, this person getting killed or that person getting killed or this election or that election, and the drama. So like, presidential election happens and people are just, falling all over themselves and like, oh, I'm so sad. It's because they have no power. Think about it. Think about it. You can make money in any environment. One of my mentors once said, it doesn't matter who's the president, you can still make a buck. To paraphrase that. And the slave morality on the right, which Nietzsche had a big problem with, was, you could say, Christianity. And the kind of Christianity which is turn the other cheek. I was talking to my dad about this. And, there's the famous Gandhi quote, like, an eye for an eye and the whole world goes blind. And my dad says, if you take one of my eyes, I'm going to take two of yours. Which goes more in line... Which I identify with. Good dad. Good job, Dad. I really appreciate that one. My conversation with Dad was pretty good. I wish Bree would hop in right now because Bree might be able to. Bree could definitely contribute to this conversation quite a bit. Bree's pretty smart. Bree's also very funny and well read. I think I would just fucking love it if she was here, but she's not. Let me see. Armbar, great. I have Brian Clark typing. Brian Clark might be here. That's pretty cool. We like Brian Clark. Let me see. Messages. And none of y'all bitches is here, and that's fine. It could be Brian Clark show. Brian, where are you at? Where are you, Brian? Brian, where are you? I would love to talk slave morality with you. Let's talk about the slave. Let's talk about the Slavs. The slave, just kidding. Now, the slave morality on the right is, Christendom is one of the big ones, and it's turn the other cheek. And it's also, the way that a video I saw described it was, somebody who's a Christian who's like, well, I have to turn the other cheek, and I just have to take it on the chin, because that's what Jesus would want me to do. But it's also that I don't have the power to rise up and fight, the Romans or whoever it is. And so the good Christian would sit there and be like, man, I can't wait until that person is burning in hell, and I will sit there and I will laugh at them. And so they view their redemption... Here, I gotta fix my light. They view their redemption as... Well, let me rephrase that. Their justice and vengeance comes in the next world, not this one. And is that the morality of a master or a slave? And it's not that I'm trying to, really critique Christianity or anything like that. I, much like Nietzsche, am just trying to speak to you guys and point something out. Brian might be busy, and that's perfectly fine. Let me take a look at my notes real quickly. Yeah, let's just go back. Let's go back. And so, it's also, I'm not going to even say the bread and circuses. It's this sort of political infighting, where you're happy that Fannie Willis is, she lost her job, and Letitia James is getting indicted for, committing mortgage fraud and doing some illegal, like, real estate stuff when she, had indictments against Trump for doing, real estate stuff that isn't illegal in any way, shape, or form. And, his lenders were like, actually, we really like Trump. It was pretty great working with him. We made a lot of money off this deal. What are you talking about? And so even just being like, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, and like getting even and having those comeuppance, which she did have some comeuppance coming. And also that guy, that Chomo got killed. He had it coming too. And I'm not going to say Charlie Kirk had what happened to him coming, but it's not like he was a shrieking violet. But the celebration of it is the fact that we have no power. And so I'm interested in power. I'm interested in attaining power for myself and for my family and my kids, and just understanding the nature of reality itself. And well, actually, power is a good one. So, I shrieked away from Machiavelli, and actually Nietzsche too, for a long time, because I viewed it as immoral. I viewed the pursuit of power as immoral. And that's because my morals were based off of a slave morality of I have no power, ergo, power is bad. And because of the culture that I was raised in, and also with my family, I was raised that these things are bad. Like, these morals and ethics did not come from me. They came, well, you could say they came from God, which I'll actually get to that in a second. But they came from my surrounding environment, And I would actually say that there is an ultimate reality, or ultimate morality. There is a high morality up there, way up there. And the way that we access through it is our morals. Like, that moral compass that we have is God, like, comes from God. Okay, kids know, like, we know the difference between right and wrong. We get the feedback mechanisms. We just know it. We know it. Even as screwed up as I am, I know it's right and wrong. Sometimes I might be indifferent, I might be automatic, and sometimes I'm pissed off, but in general I know what the difference between right and wrong is. Let me check these notes real quickly and see if I can circle it back to something. Actually, there was another thing right there. So let's actually go back to the wokeisms. So the reason that woke is so big is because it is the slave morality of the left. And if you actually think about how big Christendom is and how big religion is and how big it's getting, get ready for like a whole bunch of new religions and cults and everything. Because of how tumultuous times are, and also the craving of a certain morality, and like a morality that binds us together. And so you have this spite morality on the left. And then if we think about it in the way that they elevate things, like the most beautiful thing that a person could ever be or ascribe to is being like a black transgender woman in a wheel, actually a transgender man woman in a wheelchair who's disabled and obese and had a really bad life. That's the ultimate power of beauty, of whatever. And that's because of like this revenge system. Like, there's a cynical part of me that views women as like elevating this stuff because it's like a bunch of pretty girls are like, I'm going to go ahead and elevate this. And then I compare myself to that. And everybody's like, man, I'm so beautiful and she's so ugly. But if I were to go ahead and compare myself to Sydney Sweeney, well, then I might be ugly. Although, to be honest, Sydney Sweeney's fairly, like, she's attractive, but she's also fairly mid at the same time. Like, makeup and lighting help a lot. I'm not sure if she would be so be such a biddy if she didn't have them cans, but I digress. Where were we, Ray Ray? Near the ocean, that's where we were. Listen to the ocean. Actually, I'm kidding. It's just a cup. It's just a cup. It's not the ocean. I'd say Brian messaged me or anything now. Brian says, we live, diggity dog. Where you at? We live, Ray Ray, but where you at? We live, Danis, but where you at? 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 I have nobody to rip off of, son of a bitch. Which is why I need to just make regular videos. Fudge. Feminism. Sydney Sweeney, the black tranny in the wheelchair thing. So it's the elevation of people who are traditionally not beautiful because we are the you're on the outside. So if you think about like commies, they're all ugly. Like, communists are in general are very ugly people. Like, the most egalitarian, like the people who want us to be like all poor and equal all happen to be poor and ugly. Go figure, guys. And so what they'll do is they'll elevate like ugly to beautiful because, it's their spiteful, vengeful morality. It's kind of like the same thing as, graffiti. Like, the reason people tag buildings is because they can't make art. They can't make buildings. They can't make anything. They suck. Like your average graffiti artist is mediocre at best. Not to say that graffiti isn't like a decent style and there aren't people who like do it, but you know, these guys ain't Van Gogh. They ain't Da Vinci. They're not Michelangelo. They're not like, they ain't changing the world with their art. So all they can do is seek to make things ugly and destroy it. And then you also have the people who defend it on the left too, which is like, oh well, I'm so sorry that there's graffiti in your upper class neighborhood, and it's just more jealousy and spite because they're slaves. Like their mentality is slaves. And here's one of the sad things about it, is that we're the oppressor is our own mind. Like the oppressor is society to an extent, sure, but it's our like internalization of the morals of the society that we were born into that is our oppressor and keeps us down. And so ultimately, if we were to be free and empowered individuals, what we need to do is transcend ourselves, like our own programming, our own egos, and then out of that deliberately choose who we want to be. So yeah, I guess thank you guys. I hope I think that's part of what we talked about. But if or what I was trying to talk about. But if I'm being honest, it's going to take me a long time to get through all of this. Like Nietzsche's not light reading, and plus there's other stuff that I want to get into. Oh God, Dante's Divine Comedy. And the reason I want to read the Divine Comedy is just so I can go ahead and skip forward to really reading Machiavelli, because like the Prince I read, and I didn't think it was that valuable at the time that I read it, because again there was like, it was a violation of my morals, and I was not big in the pursuit of power or that specific type of power. I don't know, I was also pretty narcissistic about it, if I'm being honest. But the discourses on Livy is really like one of the big valuable Machiavelli contributions in the world. And reading the Divine Comedy, it helps explain what the culture was at the time. And a lot of this is independent study because, I don't have the space for it. Like I'm raising my kids. I'm not in college, and it's not like I'm going to get the best, I'm not going to be taking the best classes up here in Bellingham, Washington. But I digress. Let's go into feminism for a second. So feminism is somewhat of a slave morality. So let's take a look at, this. There's spitefulness. It's historically illiterate. And it's not to say that there isn't a place for feminism, because men have been very oppressive to women over the course of human history. And a bunch of tyrants. So where did feminism originally come from? It was from, the Industrial Revolution, guys getting drunk to deal with it on hard liquor and spirits, and then they go home and beat their wives and kids. And so then you had the dry movement come out, and whatever that was called, like the suffragettes. And they're like, hey, we need to fix this. Our husbands are getting drunk and beating us. This isn't good. Which is correct. I mean, that's not appropriate. And then what happens is women get the right to vote, and then Barack Obama comes in and fucks it all up. Like, there were a lot of women I knew who were just like, I'm going to vote for Obama because he's hot. And John McCain looks weird. No shit. No shit. And these are smart women. I'm talking about, these are women who had IQs over 135 comfortably. Comfortably. One was like definitely one over 145. And that was just her fucking attitude about the whole thing. She's like, oh, I want to suck his dick. I'm going to vote for him. Like, really? That's it? That's it? You're going to fucking destroy the country and just ruin it for your children because you want to suck some guy's dick? Are you fucking stupid? In hindsight, yes, because IQ ain't everything. Wise being smart does not make. It's an opportunity for it, but... yeah, fucking hell. Anyways, so we have and I'm not an expert on feminism, okay? I'm not an expert on Nietzsche. I'm not an expert on any of this shit that I'm talking about. I'm barely an expert on me. But then we have second wave feminism, which is basically a man can do, or a woman can do anything a man can do. So let's go ahead and get all these women into men's jobs. And we're going to do this big social engineering project and, try to, put women into middle management and upper management and just have chicks everywhere. Which was successful in achieving its goals as far as, okay, we're going to get women into the workforce. But as far as like benefiting things for women, that it did not do. So one of the conversations I had with Amy, pretty sure it was Amy, is that, one of the foundations of life, one of the most important things that we as human beings could do, in fact, you could argue the important thing, conversation I had with Jeremy, that we do is have children. It's having children. It's about having offspring and, teaching them things and, making them into better people who make the world a better place. That's the meaning of life. That's really fucking it. Like, it's no deeper than that. Have kids. Make sure that your kids and the world that they live in is better than the one you were born into. The end. That's it. That's all you gotta fucking do. Okay? And if you work on that, you're gonna be like, man, I have such a fulfilling, happy life. I can't believe how great this is. Even though, every once in a while, like once a month, you're gonna be like, God, I wish I was just fucking dead. No one get divorced, whatever. Because, like, your hormones are gonna be out of whack, or your spouse's hormones are gonna be out of whack, maybe your kids' hormones are gonna be out of whack. And sometimes it sucks, but, like, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, no, 90-80% of it's pretty damn good. And feminism destroyed that for women. Like, feminism came out. Feminism is why we ended up with Sex in the City, a show about why women should be gay men. Which, if you're thinking about, like, what gay men are, they're whores, they're disgusting, they're vapid, they're, like, just not, like, sorry, any of my fucking gay friends. You know what I'm talking about. It's not you, but it's the culture, okay? I can make generalizations about this stuff. I can definitely make generalizations about men. And so, it's trying to get women to act like a bunch of gross, creepy perverts. And so women try doing that because, our mirror neurons, these things that allow for empathy, we sit there, we watch the show, we try to identify with the show, and that show allows us to be, well, it's a mental model for who we could and who we should be in the world. It's programming for how we should act. Which is why you should be careful about the entertainment you consume. And also, by the way, Brian, why I really protect myself from, these things, like the screens. I don't need all this screen stuff because my brain's trying to map onto it. And I might need to go because I'm going to cough my ass off soon. I need more coffee or something hot. Because I got, like, nuts stuck in my throat. Oh my God, he's got nuts in his throat. If Amy was here, she would laugh at that joke. Anyway, so we had, like, second wave feminism, and a lot of it's just, like, we have to fucking get even with men, and, like, I don't even remember what third wave feminism was, and then fourth wave feminism's, like, this trans stuff, so it's, like, a woman is a woman if she says she's a woman, and all of it's just this preposterous gobbledygook, okay, and it's because the morals are coming from people who are slaves. That's why it's all fucked up, guys. Like, I regret to inform you. That's why society is just fucking broken. It's just so broken. Modernity and this giant, like, push towards science and even the push towards religion. And then this, like, inbred guilt of, like, I'm not worthy of God's love and I'm not worthy of, like, the environment or even existing because, like, my existence is contributing to climate change or whatever. It's just fucking nihilistic and gross. Like, and I mean, even with God's purpose and everything, it's just still like, oh, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. I suck, poor me. Which is just no way to live. It isn't. It really isn't. I don't know what the way to live. Well, I would actually argue the way to live is to be empowered around the things that are important to you in your life and to, shed the extra weight of guilt that is not your burden to carry. Yeah, that's all I got. Fuck, man. There's a couple of nuggets in this show. But for the most part, it's largely me trying to think through this stuff. So I do appreciate that. Actually, we'll go back to feminism for a little bit. Feminism's dumb. It's a dumb ideology. And what I mean by that is, let's just take a look at some of the big, like, feminist ideas in the framework of viewing life. One of the frameworks is, oh my god, the patriarchy. Okay, so the patriarchy is relatively, like, somewhat of an oversimplification of things. Part of the reason it's an oversimplification is like, oh, men are just tyrants and they're controlling everything. Women are responsible for 80% of all purchases. We'll just call it that, okay? 80% of the allocation of where money goes is up to women. I can tell you that as a married man. Fucking A. And also I find that often women make better consumers than men. You all really like to buy stuff. And not to say that there's men that don't like to buy stuff too, but I'm just in general, I'd say men are a little bit more miserly than women are. And so the patriarchy argument kind of falls flat on its face in light of that. Because, like, maybe there's something else going, but, if you look at the patriarchy, it's a victim mentality. Like, it's just a victim mentality. I'm like, I am being oppressed. Ergo, I want to be the oppressor, so fuck men. Okay, so then we get back to this, slave morality, which is a lot of it's just rooted in the vengeance of the powerless. And how is it rooted in the vengeance of the powerless? And, we're going to go ahead and fuck men and everything, and now you have just these awful women who are in corporate America just being awful and fucking horrible and everything. Is because if men wanted to end this shit... Let me rephrase that. The only reason women have freedom is because men choose for them to be free. I'll let that one sit for a second. Because men have the monopoly on violence. Okay, so if you want to look around the world, is there any society where women are freer than in the West? Is there one? Is there fucking one? And so there's, the feminists, I would argue, are often the ones who are, like, there's just this vengeance thing. And so if you look at the patriarchy and it's white supremacy, and I want to destroy white supremacy and patriarchy, how do I do that? Well, I destroy white Western civilizations. How do I do that? Well, immigration's a good way to do it. And immigration, unfettered immigration from the third world is going to make things much worse for women. We're importing women, or we're importing people who think less of women than white men do, white Christian men do. Like, this slave morality is it's undoing the things that their stated goals. Like, they want liberation, but they're gonna, cut their nose off to spite their face. I don't know, guys. I'm chewing on some big things. If you do watch this, I would love for your comments, or like. Well, you don't even have to like, but if you could comment on this stuff, or hey, I'm onto something. You have some insights that might contribute to this, or if you want to start a study group, that'd be fucking great. Like, we're gonna go ahead and like do our little Nietzsche study group, and read a chapter a week, and then we'll come to class and we'll discuss it and. Whatever. Maybe Dan S. should probably lead that one because Dan is better read than I am. I digress. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I'm going to go. Angels on your pillow. Take care of yourselves. I have different advice for all of you. But largely, I would say get offline. Get offline. Just get off the fucking internet. Mostly get off social media. Like, if you're going to spend time on social media, let me rephrase that. If you're going to spend time online, be deliberate about it. Figure out, what it is that you care about and what you want out of life. And then focus on that. And I'm talking to myself, maybe even more than you guys, because I know what I need to be working on. And then I get sidetracked by, the content that I automatically want to listen to, and it's feeding my confirmation bias. Like, I have to actively work against that part of myself that is lazy and wants to be morally superior, intellectually morally superior to my own detriment. And you have one more thing. So, people are in the Middle East and they're doing their peace thingy right now, and allegedly it's really cool and awesome. So, like, the Israelis and the Palestinians came to their ceasefire, and all the hostages are supposed to go back from both sides. There's, like, 20 Israeli hostages still alive. And then maybe 1,700, Israeli or Palestinian hostages. And I might even call them hostages because I'm not entirely sure that, they did anything wrong. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if this is going to be a permanent peace. People are acting like it is. I can tell you everybody wants it to be. Most everybody wants it to be, but I don't think it's done yet. I don't think it's done for a long time. And I do think the Israelis are going to get away with it. I think we're going to get distracted by AI, the next thing that happens, the next COVID, whatever it is. And people just forget. And we'll move on to the next thing forever until we do have this great awakening, which I do think there will be a great awakening, but I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime or even in the lifetimes of our children. It is coming, though. It is definitely coming. And I would work towards that. There we go. That's the positive message. Work on being the best person you can and bringing about a good world. And what does that look like? It's not about just crushing the patriarchy and smashing the Antifas and whatever the fuck, okay, guys? It's not. It's about, making yourself a better person and being a better person for the people in your life. And supporting your neighbors, loving your neighbors, and just being a good person. That's how you make the world a better place. And also actually, when you have this vengeance come up inside of you, take it as an opportunity to examine, why are you being vengeful? Like, why am I so angry about this? Why does this upset me so much? Like, you could say it's about justice or whatever it is, but there's something deeper there. And I would argue that the deeper there is that we don't have any power. But I'm going to go. I love you guys. Take care. We'll talk